An amazing new design joins the Underdog store, so get yourself an amazing shirt today. Every purchase supports the channel and you look fantastic while doing it. A big shout out to M-Boy Manuel for his amazing artwork. So today we're talking about Poison Ivy. This character could be played pretty much any way you wanted to. If you wanted to be in the opponent's face, she had plus frames, and she also had mix-ups as well, which were very strong at the casual level. She had overheads, lows, 50-50s, a lot of which led to full combos, and she even had a command grab, which was also a great mix-up and good for extending combos as well. But the crazy thing about Poison Ivy is she could also zone if you wanted to. She had the ground vines, which are very annoying to deal with. They track the opponent's location by default, and if you meter burn, it extends combos even from full screen. She gets a little mini combo. So once again, Ivy could pretty much do anything. If you wanted to zone, she could do that. If you wanted to go in, she could do that too, and she could also counter zone. She could do a little bit of everything. So without any further ado, let's talk about her, starting off with her zoning. And first up, we have the Vine Drill. As mentioned earlier, it is very annoying to deal with, especially if your character had a reflect, because it would not work on this move since it's not considered a regular projectile. And these vines were even good for hit confirms, as you could use them to extend combos. And that's a basic combo if you're a beginner. However, if you wanted to learn the tricky timing, you could actually do a 4-3 in most situations and get an even better combo follow-up. And that's already pretty frustrating, but these vines became especially annoying when Poison Ivy had her trait. So this trait is perhaps one of the most brain-dead abilities in the entire game. You just stand there and Pukey keeps throwing projectiles. So Poison Ivy could pretty much end any combo with this string right here and then mash out Pukey, and he would not stop firing until Poison Ivy got hit. So you could even block and he would just keep firing over and over again. So once you combined Pukey with the Vine Drill, you just got guaranteed chip damage, and there was nothing the opponent could do. If they wanted to jump, they would likely get hit and take even more damage, so a lot of characters just had to hold all this chip damage. And that's a lot of chip damage. Look at that, almost 1/3 of the health bar just from one setup into trait, and then tons of block damage. And like I mentioned earlier, Poison Ivy was also a bit of a counter zoner, so she had what's called Iridium Skin, but a lot of players just called it the Bark Skin. And what this did was negate block damage completely, so no matter how much you attacked Ivy, as long as she blocked correctly, she was not taking any chip damage. So what this meant was you could combo the opponent and then set up the Bark Skin and then just run away and do the drills or set up the trait, any number of things, and no matter what they did, if you blocked, you weren't taking any damage. So just like Ivy's trait, if you landed any hard knockdown, you could just do the skin and now you weren't taking any chip damage whatsoever, which meant you could zone and be really annoying, or you could summon the trait, any number of things, and no block damage was going to happen. Overall, it's a pretty good move, but real quick, a rant. NetherRealm, please stop doing down inputs, or at least don't include them with characters that have down inputs in their strings. I've gotten this move by accident so many times just trying to do her bread and butter combos. Please stop, because you also did this to Frost, and it's very annoying, especially if you don't turn off the easy inputs. You get it by mistake all the time, even if you don't press down twice. So please stop doing this, NetherRealm. My goodness, it's frustrating. Okay, that's about it for my rant. So now let's talk about Ivy's Rushdown. So like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, Ivy has a ton of mix-ups in her strings. She has lows, overheads, all that good stuff. And if you don't learn this character in practice mode, you have no idea what to expect when you fight her, because whether you're crouching or standing, she can still get a full combo on you if you're not careful. But just to make things even more unfair, Ivy had a low mix-up out of her Datura hammer. So what this meant was any strings that normally end in an overhead, well, guess what? Now it ends in a low. So get ready to try and block that online. I hope there's no lag. And it's the exact same situation for this string. Once again, ends with a double hitting overhead, but now it ends in a low. Now, thankfully, the low option was unsafe on block, but the overheads were not. So Ivy didn't run a very big risk whenever she went for the overhead. So if you were blocking her strings correctly, then she could just switch to the low and catch you standing. But thankfully, if you did block that mix-up, you got a full combo on Ivy, so at least that much is fair. And this move was also great for extending combos as well. You didn't have to go for a low. If you pressed 2, it would launch the opponent without having to spend any meter, which means free combo extensions. So for example, if you had no meter, you could still do a combo like this, which did some decent damage. And then if you did have meter, you could keep the combo going with her command grab, and we're going to talk about it more a bit later, but just keep in mind for now, it was great for extending combos, especially after her meterless extensions. And then once you had the opponent scared of all the different mix-ups, you could just cancel it by holding up, which wasn't technically safe on block, but once again, they're scared of all the different follow-ups, so they're not going to press any buttons, which means you can hold up and just get away for free. Which is why at a high-level tournament, it wasn't uncommon for the Ivy player to just constantly be canceling and go for more attacks, or canceling and going for a throw, all that dirty stuff, because the follow-up options were just that scary. And then next up, we have the command grab. So it was a high, which meant the opponent could duck under it, but even so, it was still a a very powerful command grab. You could do it after a tick throw, so right here, a down one. You could do it after a standing one, which is always trickier for me, but there we go. And you could even do it after her down two as well. Oh, nope, I guess they patched that. That definitely used to be possible, but I guess now you can't do it after her down two. And sadly, that's all the tick throws she has, or at least that's all the ones that I know about. Post in the comments if she has any more, but I'm pretty sure she can only do it after her standing one and her crouching one. But even so, it's just one more thing for you to worry about when you're fighting Ivy, and then if she meter burned it, she got a full combo extension, and she could also end combos with it, which left the opponent standing, which means no wake up and no invincibility frames. And like you saw earlier, this command grab was also your go-to way to extend combo. So for example right here, get the back three and keep that combo going. And as you can see, the damage isn't that crazy, but also keep in mind it only costs 1 bar, and as mentioned earlier, this character is great at everything, so her damage doesn't have to be that crazy. And then if you did want to spend bars, you were getting around 400 damage, especially with the jump in, so her damage wasn't terrible, it just wasn't the best. However, there's still one more thing this command grab was good for, and that's setting up her trait, because you were so plus on hit that you could summon the trait, hit the opponent, and now they're dealing with all these mix-ups and all this pressure on block, not to mention all the block damage. Even if they block correctly, that's a ton of chip. So on top of extending combos and being unblockable, the command grab was also great for setting up your trait and a bunch of pressure that came afterwards. And then in the corner, this command grab setup got even scarier because Pukey can actually keep your combos going without having to spend any meter. And once again, the meter burn command grab guaranteed this setup. So once again, Ivy was just good at everything. If you wanted to go in, she had mix-ups, she had crazy block pressure with her trait, she had command grabs and all that good stuff. Her damage wasn't too bad, she could zone, she could anti-zone, all that crazy stuff. And finally, it's also worth mentioning that nearly all of her strings are safe on block, and the ones that are unsafe on block are very easy to hit confirm, so you don't have to overcommit to them. And even if you do, she had this move right here, which kept her completely safe if you meter burned it. In fact, it was +7. So even if you did do something unsafe or even minus on block, you could just cancel into Chompy and Bitey and then meter burn, and you were now +7 on block. So yeah, this character was pretty much good at everything. And she also had a decent back 3 because it hit you without extending her own hurt box, which meant it was hard to actually hit her. And then her forward 3 was the stuff of legends. The range on this thing is just ridiculous, and the only trade-off was it could sometimes go right over crouching opponents, which doesn't make much sense for an overhead to miss crouching opponents, but even so it could, which of course meant you never wanted to do it up close. It was more of a way to snipe the opponent from far away, especially if you wanted to amplify it with the bar and then it was armored. It was honestly one of the better 4-3s in the entire game, and it led to a full combo or a command grab extension. So yeah, this character had a godlike forward 3 and a decent back 3. So after hearing all of these amazing things about Ivy, you're likely wondering, why was this character not at every single tournament? Why was she not like upgraded Jackie? She seems good in every single way. Well, the sad reality is Ivy does not have any reliable ways of hitting you out of the air, especially if you're further away, which means she had some really bad matchups in this game. In fact, even Harley Quinn is a good example of a somewhat bad matchup, so I'm gonna tell Harley Quinn to jump back and just fire these gunshots. So these, believe it or not, are only -7 on block, so what do? I can't catch her with this, it's not gonna reach. And in fact, even Pukey can't hit you when you're that high up in the air because he only fires at a set angle. So if your character has any sort of way to stay in the air, whether it's an air dash or an air projectile, even Pukey can't help. In fact, sometimes just an air dash was all it took to throw Ivy off of her game, so it seems like she has a very similar problem to Solomon Grundy in the first Injustice game. She has a really tough time against any characters who can fly or fire projectiles from the air. All of that stuff is really tough for Ivy. Now with that said, if you were a good Ivy player, then of course you could make it work, but the point is she had some really tough matchups, so a lot of players would just learn a different character because you don't want a character who suffers that hard in certain matchups. Instead, you're much better off learning a character with more solid matchups who's good at fighting everybody. But that's about it for the video, everyone. This character was extremely solid and perhaps one of the most universal characters that NetherRealm has ever made. But please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. How do you feel about Ivy, and which character do you think was the most universal? And then while you're down there, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. It really does help my channel out a ton. And then keep that combo going by suplexing that subscribe button. That way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.